Welcome to the Trading Field Sunday Routine. So as always, what we're going to be doing is showing you all of the trades that we placed last week and then actually looking at the charts and potential buying and selling zones for the markets that we'll be looking at this week. But first of all, last week, what a week it was.
Yeah, an amazing week for us and our members. I think we took 11 trades in total. Yep. 7 of those were wins and 4 of those were losses. But collectively, we gained around 460 pips for the week and 9.6 units. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what units are, if you're risking $100 per trade, then 9.6 units equates to around $960 in profit.
So we had some very happy members.
Yeah,
very happy members. So some of the trades that we took last week, just to highlight them. First of all, lastly we had a really good trade on USD CAD to finish the week up, which was lovely. We then also had a good trade on NZD, where we had Euro NZD and we had NZD JPY. Yeah.
A few of the members actually approached us and said, did you have an inside man? How did you know this drop was going to happen? Because Euro NZD, I think, shot up by 250 pips or so, and NZD JPY dropped
130, I think
130 pips. So they said, have you got an inside man? How did you know this was going to happen? So fundamentals aside, obviously fundamentals play a huge part, and there's no disputing that in trading. But just looking at purely the technical analysis perspective side of things for NZD, we realized that NZD was overbought and it was due a correction, and that's why we went short on NZD JPY, and Euro NZD we went long on.
Yeah, it was a very, very tactical play as such, and to be honest, it was a risk because there was news coming out. We knew there was news coming out, but we did expect that dovish tone to come from that news as well. Yeah. So, kind of two things falling in our favour, and what a Wednesday morning it was.
It was amazing.
It was, we had a lot of fun on Wednesday morning with the members in the group. So anyway, let's show you all those trades, and I'll run through that, and then obviously Yasser, you'll go through the trades for the week ahead.
Yeah, so I'll cover the trades and the markets that we're looking at for the week ahead, but also we've just released our quarterly report. So this is a signal service report that's done from the very start, so since November 19th, 2018 up until today. So every single trade that we've taken, every win, every loss, every single market, what the risk reward was, everything is available for you guys to see, complete transparency, and that's available now on our website.
Yeah, and we'll also obviously put a link of that in the description as well for you guys to access as well. So I'll just run through last week's trades to see you on the other side. Right guys, so as promised, let's go through the trades from last week. So as most of you will know, we had a fantastic week last week, 9.5 units, 9.6 to be exact, with 460 pips bagged for the week. So it was a really, really good week. We only had 4 losses last week, and we had, I think, 7 wins, I believe. So really, really good week for us. And let's just run through the actual trades that we took and actually what happened with those trades. So first one was gold. Now gold we actually held on from the week before, and gold is probably the most horrible to us in terms of the fact we had literally the best entry on this market. Okay, so we had a really, really good entry on this market. We actually tapped in the previous week at around 13.18. We expected this fall down to around this 1300 level, but as you can see, we just rejected this trend line. We decided to hold it, okay, as this was about 10 o'clock, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And we decided to hold actually this trade into the following day. And as you can see, we actually just rode straight back up, which is really frustrating. So again, we decided to hold this trade through the weekend. And annoyingly, it actually hit our stop by about 10 pips. And then as you can see further down the line, we had a very, very big drop, which is what we are actually anticipating. And just unfortunately, we were about a week early to actually getting this trade. So that's gold. Okay, later on in the week, we did actually manage to find another good, strong entry on this market, but we'd already had a very, very good few days, and we didn't want to obviously see this trade reverse at all. So we actually took profits very, very early, and as you can see, we took profits at around 13.10, 13.11. and the market continued to fall about another 200 pips or so. So that's a bit frustrating. We got 30 pips out of it, and the risk reward of about 1, I believe. But yeah, a bit frustrating on gold. Now NZD USD. Now this was an absolutely great trade to start the week off with. We obviously, as you can see here, in terms of the structure, we had this sort of triangular pattern come out. We had a bit of a support level here, and obviously once we broke that, we entered this market and we managed to come up just tapping into our stock pretty much precisely, give or take 3 or 4 pips or so before it actually decided to reverse moving forward. So really nice trade on NZD USD, about 1.4 risk reward. We then had CAD JPY, so another really good trade to start the week. Again, entering off the bottom of this structure here, around that 81.8 level, and immediately we just saw that market climb up to our anticipated region of around 82.5, which is where we took our profits. We then had GBP CAD, which was again quite unfortunate. We immediately saw that movement to the downside, which we were quite happy about. But as you can see, we rejected this sort of 1.7650 level quite hard and actually came up and tapped into our stop on the 26th. So a bit frustrating on that one in terms of hitting the stop, but again, losers are all part of the game, and as you can see, we already had a fantastic week, even though we did hit 4 stop losses or so. We then had a trade on Germany, which was a really nice trade. 137 pips made on this trade. Obviously buying this at the bottom here, anticipating this kind of intraday trade into our region, and as you can see, we just about tapped our profit. I think we took profit about 5 pips early, just because we could kind of see it slowing down, but still managed to bag about 137 pips on this one as well. We then had NZD JPY. So first of all, we were anticipating this to happen, okay, but let's just talk about this one first. So we actually thought that it could occur around this point, okay, and if you just look back, you can see this kind of strong level of support, okay, potentially turning resistance at this point. So we took that trade there, very tight stop loss, and as you can see, we just got tapped out of this one. But fear not, we lost 30 pips on that trade. Later on in the week, we spotted a very nice opportunity to actually sell this from the highs right before this news was coming out on the NZD, okay. Absolutely amazing trade. Within 15 minutes, a candle had moved about 100 pips or so, smashing straight into our profit target, and meaning that everybody woke up with some really nice gains. So this week, obviously, as we've mentioned, we were referring to this week as NZD week because that was one hell of a trade. 116 pips, risk reward of about 2.7. Really nice midweek for us. We had an Aussie dollar CHF trade, which again, just unfortunate, hit our stop by about 10 pips or so before it actually did decide to reverse, but still didn't go to quite where we expected it, which was actually around that 0.7 region. So a loss there, only minus 24 pips or so. We then had the Euro NZD, so this was another NZD one based on where we were location wise in terms of the structure, and this area here, okay, underneath where this green bit's highlighted, we haven't touched this for years, okay, we haven't touched this for years, so we did anticipate a very strong bullish candle to pop out of this region, okay, and as you can see, we caught it perfectly, okay, again, another 2.8 risk reward, 164 pips on that trade, and again, waking up in the morning with some really nice profits. And then finally, just to top the week off for us, we had anticipated a drop on the USD CAD market, had a very nice entry on this one. Our target was actually a little bit lower, but obviously, as you can see, we were coming towards the end of the week. We had hit one of our major manipulated levels, and we decided to just take profits there, close up shop for the week, adding obviously 170 pips to this trade. Now, just one thing I will go over before Yasser will go ahead and talk about the trades for the following week is just look at the difference in terms of the stop losses and in terms of the target. So let's just start with gold. So okay, we lost 48 pips and we only made 30 pips. We would have made a lot more, but we were being a bit more cautious. Okay, so obviously just keep in mind low amount of pips here, 40 pips or so that we've lost on that market. Now NZD USD, 27 pips, nice pip profit, but the risk on this one, the risk was only 23 pips or so. We then had CAD JPY, nice 60 pip gain, but we were only risking 26 pips, okay, 26 pips on this one. So our entry strategy now is getting very, very strong, and we're trying to capitalize that in terms of risk reward. Okay, so really waiting for that opportune moment to enter these markets before we get that movement, allowing us to obviously profit and gain much bigger in the weeks of our trade. So GBP CAD again, so we lost just minus 45 pips. Okay, not a lot at all. Germany risk was approximately 55 pip risk, but we made 137 pips on that trade. Okay, so again, nearly 3 risk reward, 2.7 or so. NZD, 2.7 risk reward. Okay, and as you can see, the previous one we only lost 30 pips, but the next one we gained 120 pips almost. Aussie dollar CHF, only risking 24 pips. We were hoping to make about 60, 70 pips or so, but the market didn't quite want to go our way for Aussie dollar Swiss this week. Euro NZD again, just risking 58 pips on this one, but we've made 164 pips. Okay, so 2.86 risk reward. Really, really nice trade, really nice risk reward. And again, when we're looking at USD CAD as well, you can see that our risk on this one was about 35 pips, and we managed to get about 71 from it as well. So again, looking at a 2-to-1 risk reward ratio. And this is what you're going to see from us moving forward, because we've really been working on our entries. We've had a couple of comments from people, obviously just mentioning that sometimes our entries are really, really spot on. The best one this week that we actually did, which was actually the one that we didn't really profit from, was gold. Our entry was just astonishing. So our entry on gold, okay, we waited for this very specific movement to occur before entering this market, okay, and we literally entered this market here, okay, 1318.05, I believe. And literally we were not in loss for more than about 5 minutes on this trade before we actually reversed and fell all that way to the downside. Just really, really unfortunate. We expected to go further, but actually we were just a week early in terms of our analysis. So all in all, very, very good week. As mentioned, 460 pips bagged, 9.6 units. So let's have a look at the trades for this week, and Yasser will run through the markets that we'll be focusing on. Thanks, guys.
Right guys, so Matt's actually just ran you through what an amazing week we had last week. So we look forward to more of the same this upcoming week. So let me run you through the markets that we're going to be looking at, the potential buying and selling zones, and the bias for each of those respective markets. Now to begin with, we're going to start with Germany, the only indice that we trade now that FTSE has got the boot. So Germany, all we're looking for is a slight retracement, okay, back into this region over here to just create that other shoulder on this head and shoulder pattern, and then we'll be looking to take this market lower down towards the 11,300 region. Now moving on to gold, everyone's favorite, a very similar scenario. We're just looking for a slight retracement just to create that another shoulder and around the 1308 to 1310 region, and then we'll be looking to take this down to the lows of 1275. Now moving on to the euro pairs, we're bullish on Euro USD. Okay, so we're looking for a slight retracement. As you can see, the market has moved very sharply from in and around this region here. So clearly a demand zone. So we're looking for a slight retracement just to enter in this region to then take this market back up towards the 1.135 region. Now Euro NZD, we're looking for a slight retracement. Again, bullish on this pair as well. So we're looking for a slight retracement. As you can see, a clear demand zone in and around this region. So we'll look for rejections in and around this region. Just a thing to point out though, just because you've had a rejection here does not mean that you're going to get the next move up. So I'm not going to cover the strategy that we look for because that's covered in the course, but as you can see, the market actually pushed down lower. A typical stop hunt, I would have taken you out of this market before we had that massive bullish move, largely due to the news. Okay, so we're looking for a slight retracement, just get a good entry in and around this region to then take us up to the towards the 1.67 region. Now Euro CAD looks a bit messy, okay, but I'll try and explain this the best way I can. So if we get a rejection in and around this manipulative region here, we'll look to then take this market lower and catch this for a short. However, if this bearish momentum continues and smashes through this level, as you can see, a clear demand zone over here, Typical for reversals, okay, we'll look for rejections in and around this very tight region actually, and then we'll look to take this long up towards that region. Okay, so now Euro Aussie dollar, very simple actually, just looking to create the next lower high and then to take this market lower. Now NZD USD, a very similar scenario as well actually, potentially can create the other shoulder, okay, around this region here, just to break above the 0.685 region. We'll try and catch this as high as we can to then get the next leg to the downside. Moving on to CAD JPY, a very similar scenario over here. We might get a retest of around this region here, okay, so this horizontal ray line that has been drawn out. We're looking for a slight pullback into this region, create that next lower high to then continue its push to the downside. Now Aussie dollar USD, we've written here, can we get a big rejection? Okay, so we'll be watching the price action very, very closely on this pair, okay, because it is clearly riding the trend line to the downside. So we'll be looking for a big rejection in and around this region on our demand zone to then take this higher. Now Aussie dollar CAD, a very, very similar scenario as well actually. As you can see, we've got a on the lower time frame, the 4 hourly, we are currently riding this trend line to the upside, sorry. So a break of this trend line into our demand zone and then to take this market higher. Now USD CAD, we are still bearish on, so we obviously caught this move last week as Matt has already covered, but we're looking for a slight retracement. We remain bearish on this pair, okay, so if we can get a rejection in and around this region, as you guys can see, you don't even have to take the course, but as you guys can see, this is a major supply zone, okay, so a major liquidity zone here. So if we can get some rejections in and around this region, we'll then look to take this market lower. USD Swiss, a very similar scenario, okay. This is a clear manipulative region. We do remain bearish on USD, so if we can get some rejections in and around this region, we'll look to take this market lower. USD JPY, again bearish on USD, as we do believe it is oversold and largely do a correction. So we'll look for a slight retracement, okay. I don't know if we'll get it, but if we do, that will give us the perfect entry to then take this market lower as well. Now finally finishing off with the GBP pairs. Now GBP Aussie dollar, we are actually, there's two scenarios on this one, okay, so if we can catch the long, then we'll try and catch this long, 150 pips to the upside, but ultimately we're looking for that short, okay, down towards the 1.84 region. Now GBP USD, the cable, what are we looking at here? So as you can see, a very, very clear manipulative region, so we'll look for rejections in and around this level, the 1.2975 level that we have highlighted here. As you can see, one drive, two just failed, and now we've got that next one, okay, so we'll look for a slight pullback just to retest that region to then take this market higher. Now finally, to finish off, GBP CAD, okay, so GBP CAD, we're looking for a slight retracement in and around this region. We may not get it all the way up to the 1.775 region, however we'll watch the price action in and around this region, and if there is no indication of the sellers actually coming into this market, that would indicate that market is looking to push higher, where we would then look for rejections in and around this region to then take that market lower. Okay guys, that covers absolutely everything in terms of the markets that we're looking at. As you can see, we have narrowed it down to a few markets now, but yeah, it's always quality over quantity at TTF, so we look forward to having a great week with you guys.
Right, so that covers basically everything. We've run you through all of our trades that we took last week. We've also gone through all of the markets that we're interested in this week and potential buying and selling zones of these markets. Obviously, what you may have noticed in terms of looking at last week's trades is actually things have slightly changed for us. The way that we actually enter a market, the way we exit a market, and actually our risk-reward ratios on these trades that we take now.
Yeah, and that all came about from journaling and actually analysing the trades that we take. A lot of back testing, looking at the spreadsheet that we keep up to date on every single trade that we take. And a lot of our members actually approached us as well and said, you know what, we've noticed a difference in the way that you guys trade, and we're hardly ever going into a loss when you're trading. So yeah, a lot of back testing, a lot of analyzing, and we led up to a decision to change our strategy very slightly, which helped us to gain higher risk rewards when we're trading. So as you can see, our entry points are really, really good now. We're hardly ever going into a loss, and our stops are much tighter, which means we get a bigger and larger risk reward on our trades as well. Yeah. So that's something that we'll look to continue going into the week ahead, and we look forward to joining you next week and show you how our trades went next week as well.
Yeah. So guys, if you haven't already, please just subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook if you're not. But thanks for listening.
Oh,